This is the Great Pyramid of Giza. It stood in the Egyptian desert for over 4,600 years. Through most of human history, it was the tallest structure on Earth. It was built to last forever because it was meant for a god. It survived earthquakes, erosion, and wars. Looters tried their luck. British explorers blasted their way inside with dynamite. Even Mr. Beast came here. Someone placed this stone right here about 4,500 years ago. In total, the pyramid uses around 2.3 million stone blocks. Some weigh up to 50 metric tons. One of the heaviest constructions in human history. And it was done with insane precision. The base covers an area close to the size of 12 soccer fields. It's almost perfectly flat, less than an inch of variation. Each side aligns with the cardinal directions nearly perfectly, thousands of years before the compass existed. Even today, no one knows exactly how it was built. To understand it, we modeled the entire pyramid in 3D and analyzed the three leading construction theories. This is the insane engineering of the pyramids. This is Khufu, pharaoh of ancient Egypt, ruler of the richest nation on the planet, a man considered a god. He planned to live forever, so he needed a home built for eternity. It had to guard his riches and inspire his people. His father Sneferu is buried here, the man who mastered pyramid construction. But his designs weren't perfect. Something went wrong. Khufu knew he could do better. Egypt was mourning Sneferu, and Khufu needed unity. The pyramid would unite the nation behind the greatest project ever attempted. If he succeeded, his people would love him and remember him more than his father. A build this massive required wealth, organization, and power. Egypt had one lifeline, knowing the Nile would deliver every year. The floods fed the land fed the workers built the legacy. The army protected and expanded Egypt's wealth by raiding nearby regions. So money was not the problem. Brilliance was. There was only one choice. His half-brother, Hemi-Unu, a once-in-a-generation architect, the mind chosen to design eternity. Hemi-Unu imagined something bigger, more complex, and far more secure. Mostly solid stone, with 3 burial chambers inside. One underground, if Khufu died early, one hidden behind a false wall, to fool thieves. And the highest chamber reached through a monumental corridor, the Grand Gallery, a passage built to impress even the gods. At the end, the King's Chamber, massive by Egyptian standards, built from pink granite hauled from Aswan, cut, moved, placed, perfectly. No blade could slide between the stones. Inside would rest the sarcophagus of a god-king, then sealed in smooth white limestone, reflecting the sun by day and dominating the desert sky at night. Topped with a golden capstone. A home for eternity was ready. But Hemi-Unu couldn't waste time. Stone can last forever. Life cannot. The pyramid had to rise fast, with at least one chamber completed before Khufu's mortal life ended. Hemi-Unu set a goal: finish the entire pyramid in 20 years. His estimates required 25,000 workers, a massive share of Egypt's population of 1 million. So recruitment began. How it was truly built remains unknown. Scholars debated it for centuries. New discoveries kept changing the story. Sometimes technology helped, sometimes luck did. We focus only on science-backed theories. No speculation, no wild guesses. 3 scientific theories, ranked easy, medium, hard. Picture this. You and 25,000 workers must lift a stone block. A block as heavy as a large pickup truck. Up 130 meters. Your tools? Rope, wood, rubble, and nothing more. Something heavy must go up. So you build a ramp. You tie the block with ropes. You gather every worker you can on the slope, and you pull. Together. The pyramid grew taller. The ramp grew longer, higher. No machines, no complexity. Simple, effective, limited by muscle, not machines. For decades, Egyptologists supported the external ramp theory. Evidence shows Egyptians used ramps before, but the design of this ramp? Unknown. Size? Debated. Shape? Debated. Angle? Debated. At extreme height, the math collapses. To pull a 2-ton block up a slope, 12 workers are needed. To stay gentle, the ramp must stretch outward. At 8% incline, the maximum sustainable slope for regular workers, the ramp exceeds 1 kilometer to reach 147 meters. Material volume? Millions of tons. Possibly triple the pyramid's own volume. Yet no trace of such a ramp exists. And building it alone could take decades. Time Khufu did not have. So engineers proposed a shortcut. A spiral ramp, wrapping the pyramid like a mountain road. Clever, but dangerous for precision. The pyramid's faces must hold 51.9 degrees. A base error of centimeters becomes meters at the top. A spiral blocks sightlines, and survey accuracy collapses. But the Great Pyramid is not crooked, so the spiral fails. Theory 2 begins in the late 1990s. A French engineer, Henri Audin, watched a pyramid documentary. The external ramp didn't convince him. From an engineering standpoint, it didn't work. He called his son Jean-Pierre Audin, an architect. Jean-Pierre studied the problem for years. Egyptologists dismissed him first, gatekeeping the field. But his idea refused to die. Here is the theory, in its simplest form. Hemi-Unu used an external ramp early on, but only up to 60 meters. And it wasn't rubble. It was limestone blocks, future pyramid layers. That explains why no ramp remains were found around the pyramid. They were never missing. They became the pyramid. The short external ramp built the wide lower levels. It also hauled the 50-ton granite beams for the king's chamber. But moving 50-ton stones with hundreds of workers in tight spaces was impossible. So Auden believes Hemi-Unu designed a smarter system. A system hidden in plain sight, the 46-meter Grand Gallery. The Grand Gallery was always strange. Tall, narrow, benches carved into stone. No one could explain it. Until now. Auden claims the benches were not decoration. They were tracks. Guides for wooden roller carts. No wheels, only controlled sliding. A granite block sat at the base of the ramp. It was tied by rope to a heavy cart at the top of the Grand Gallery. The cart rolled down, and the stone went up. Scuff marks inside the gallery show something heavy hit the walls repeatedly. This was not a hallway. This was a machine. Once the granite beams were placed, the external ramp lost its purpose. The pyramid was now too tall, so the builders changed strategy. They reused the ramp's limestone blocks and built a new ramp inside the pyramid, like a spiral driveway inside a parking garage. A 7% incline, zigzagging upward. Straight, then turn, then rise again. Heavy stones moved uphill on sleds over smooth limestone. But the real test was the corners. Turning 50-ton blocks in a 3-meter corridor was brutal. So Auden predicts builders left open turning spaces at each ramp section. Spaces for levers, wooden rollers, or simple cranes. And spaces to rest. At 83 meters up, a stone notch matches Auden's turning space prediction. His math was correct. His theory might be too. Critics call it complicated, unproven, too complex. They prefer the external ramp because it's simple. But Egyptians built with impossible precision. If they engineered the stars into stone, Why not engineer stone with science? Then came 2024. New studies claim the Nile once ran beside the pyramids. Giza is desert today. It was not desert then. A lost Nile branch floated stone blocks directly to the site. Horizontal transport solved. But lifting remained. Another 2024 study proposes a bigger idea. Hydraulic power. Not workers, not machines. Water itself may have raised the stones. In simple terms, it's a water-powered elevator. That idea isn't new, but for a long time, serious Egyptologists dismissed it as fringe science. To them, it was speculation that sounded impressive but had no evidence. That may be changing. A team of researchers, hydrologists, engineers, and geographers found signs Egypt's earliest pyramid used a floating wooden elevator, a system that could lift heavy stones with far less human effort. Here is how it likely worked. Rainwater and floodwater were collected in a nearby structure acting as a dam. Underground channels guided the water into a vertical shaft running from beneath the pyramid through its center, like a volcano carved into stone. This shaft created the upward force. A large wooden platform floated inside the shaft. Workers loaded heavy stone blocks onto it at ground level. By opening or closing valves at the bottom, they controlled the water level. Water rose, and the platform rose with it, functioning exactly like an elevator. This system could raise stones at least 17 meters high. Once lifted, workers unloaded the stones and continued building from inside. The lead researcher suggests this may explain why later pyramids became smaller. Less water, less lift, less scale. Does the theory hold up? Most experts remain doubtful. Zahi Hawass, one of the most prominent Egyptologists, rejects it outright. The studied pyramid is far smaller than Khufu's and built differently, with lighter stones. A water elevator for Giza would have required a much larger, more complex system, and no such central shaft has ever been found in the Great Pyramid. Ramps, however, are proven. They appear across Egyptian construction sites. So mainstream theories still stand with ramps as the primary method. Other scientific ideas explain parts of the process. Multiple smaller ramps built on all sides to speed construction. But no single theory has universal agreement. Not yet. That's why headlines claiming the mystery is solved should always be questioned. Everyone wants to be first with the answer. Because the Great Pyramid is not just a structure. It is the last surviving wonder of the ancient world. It was ancient even to Cleopatra. And Egypt documented everything. Taxes, poems, donkey feed receipts. But never pyramid blueprints. That absence is the mystery. Then came 2017. A massive hidden void was detected using particle physics. Unreached, unseen, untouched. Some archaeologists call it structural support, a pressure relief space. Others say it supports the counterweight system idea. And Hawass believes it may be Khufu's true burial chamber, because Khufu's mummy and treasures were never found. Whatever the void is, it proves one thing. The pyramid's story is not finished, and the greatest answers may still be hidden inside it.